Right now, though, let's talk to Chris Phillips. He's the former head of the National Counter-Terrorism Security Office, and he joins us right now. Good morning to you, Chris.
Good morning, Julia.
Good morning. Sorry for a bit of a delay getting to you. I did want to talk to you, we'll get to you about the rise of the terror threat that we are seeing, which the Home Secretary talked about in a speech yesterday. But I'd love to get your thoughts on the idea that, bank accounts can be closed for people, who are legitimately elected politicians, highly influential people in our media as well. When you can be a convicted terrorist and still have a bank account.
It's completely incredible, and even more sinister when you think that the government and the world is moving over to this digital currency where you must have a bank account in order to do anything, because they want to control what you're spending and how you spend it. So this is really, really sinister. And as you say, there are terrorist organisations, there are terrorist groups, there are individual people who we know are a real threat to our society who operate quite successfully bank accounts, and this is really, really quite scary and needs to be clamped down on immediately. And it's good that it's being brought out now by Nigel Farage.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more on that. It's better that we know about it. It was amazing how many people came out of the woodwork and said this had happened to them. And we saw that, of course, didn't we, with things like PayPal, when they closed down the Free Speech Union and Toby Young's account, and then Us for Them, the parents group, for just trying to get kids back to school. That's how sinister their work was. Let's also talk about, the terror threat. The Home Secretary Suella Braverman said yesterday, as publishing a review of the counter-terrorism strategy contest, updated for the first time in 5 years, that the risk from terrorism is rising. She says we now face a domestic terrorist threat which is less predictable, harder to detect and investigate, a persistent and evolving threat from Islamist terrorist groups overseas, and an operating environment where technology continues to provide both opportunity and risk to our counter-terrorism efforts. We therefore judge, she said, that the risk from terrorism is once again rising. And this also at a time when we understand that up to 50 terrorists currently in prison are set to be released this year, effectively one a week. People who've been convicted of terrorism attacks being freed on our streets again because we frankly don't put people away for long enough. How concerned are you?
Well, very concerned, Julia, and you're right. And I'm glad that Suella Braverman has brought up this fact that these terrorists have been released, because they are hardened, convicted terrorists. Not only have they already committed terror offences, but they're being released back onto our streets pretty much with the freedom to go and do whatever they want. And that's a really dangerous situation. It was interesting to note the other day, I looked at the prison radicalisation figures, and there's less and less prisoners in prison who are extreme Islamic activists, basically because they've been released back onto the street. Incredible.
And we know, don't we? The figures are really, really clear that 4 out of the 9 terror attacks in Britain in the last 5 years were carried out by recently released prisoners.
And it's not as though they've been de-radicalised in prison. We know for a fact that prisons are poor at doing that. In fact, they've been running gangs in our prisons to the extent that people going into prison become more radicalised than when they were outside.
And we know that these terror organisations, particularly Islamic State and Al-Qaeda, previously been doing this. They actually target people, often low-level criminals who are behind bars, disaffected, often ex-drug addicts and they target them because, of course, they're ripe for that sort of radicalisation. I do find it difficult, though. Look, whether it's down to sort of the Treasury expressing concern about Nigel Farage's bank account being closed, or the Home Secretary Suella Braverman, from whom I've got an awful lot of time. I think she does actually, think the right way, wants to do the right stuff, but saying, the risk of terrorism is rising, so we're letting all these people out. We sort of seem to think this if these things happen to us, and there's nothing we can do about it. But the reality is, we don't put people behind bars for long enough.
No, exactly, and the fact that they get released early is just quite incredible when they know that they're still radicalised individuals. This is, I've said this before, but this is it's so dangerous that we've got very dangerous people coming out of the streets, and we are playing some kind of, it's like society and a criminal justice system is playing a bit of a game with society. Will they attack us or won't they? Because to think that the security services and police can keep an eye on these people when they are already rammed full of people to watch, it's just silly.
Indeed. Chris Phillips, former head of the National Counter-Terrorism Security Office, thank you very much indeed for that.